Hey everybody, my name is Levi, and today we're going to be talking about my least favorite reads of 2022. This year, I actually read the least amount of graphic novels and manga I've ever read in a year, which means the majority of what I read was simply just books. And unfortunately, my average rating still hovered around a 3.0, like 3.1, somewhere around there, because I rated so many books 1, 2, 3 stars. So like my other video, my best reads, I do have some physically, but I've since gotten rid of or did not read the others physically. So I just want to go through the physical ones that I have first. So the first book that I have to talk about is The Troop by Nick Cutter. This one I was looking forward to because Gabby over at Gabby Reads had really liked it. I think Kayla read it and she also liked it. I was just so severely disappointed with this book. So this book is about a group of boys and their scoutmaster, and they're on like the last mission or trip that would make them like official. It's like the equivalent of Boy Scouts, official scouts or whatever, and so they have to do this solo hike. But when they get to the island, it's on an island off the coast of Canada, and once they get to the island, they realize that there's something there, and it is hungry. So this is definitely body horror, but I found it so flat. All of the boys are archetypes of certain horror characters, and the Scoutmaster I probably like the most. So there's some multimedia across the story. There's some newspaper clippings. There's like an interview, and it's detailing what's happened after the island. So one of the first openings we get is an article about how there was only one survivor, and I really disliked that because it took away all of the mystery and all of the intrigue, because as we're reading this, we know everybody is going to die except for one person, and that sucks out literally all of the suspense. And I understand why the author did that. I just don't think, and it is a horror, it's not a mystery, it's not a suspense, but building that suspense can in itself be horrific, especially if you build up a character and they are not the final girl, or in this case, final boy. So I wish that all of that had been saved for the end. All of the interviews that they scattered throughout, everything had been saved for the end, even though the interviews were my favorite part. If I have strong feelings towards a book, I will definitely read the acknowledgements because I want to see like who the author is, like a glimpse into their life. I was not surprised that this author's role model was Stephen King. This book read exactly like a Stephen King book, and I think Stephen King blurbed it. So this author's writing reads just like Stephen King. Not only that, but it is multimedia just like Carrie. And so I can definitely see where it's like the Stephen Kingification of horror is coming through in this book, and I wish it had just been less uniform. This author's writing style does not feel unique. It feels like he learned from Stephen King, which is totally fine if you also have your own spin on it. But I was reading this and I was like, this reminds me of Stephen King. And then I got to the end and I was like, oh my god, Stephen King is like the best writer ever. And I was like, yep, that's why. So when there's no unique twist to your story, unique writing voice to your story, it loses its appeal to me. You know what I mean? So this book was really disappointing, even though I wanted a really good horror novel, and I do like body horror, but none of his other books appeal to me, and I don't know if I'd like them based on this book. The next one I have to talk about, I feel like will be controversial, but if you know me and you watch my channel, probably not controversial for this channel, but I think it's funny because I buddy read this with 2 friends who both liked it, which was pure torture for me. I expected them to be on my side, and neither of them were on my side. And that is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. So if you know of and or have read The Love Hypothesis, this is the same book in different font. Maybe, because the cover is also exactly the same. This book is about a woman named B, and she's either a PhD candidate or she's just finished her PhD, like one of the two. She's getting her degree in neuroengineering and is offered this spot at NASA to create a special helmet for astronauts. And then she finds out that the other person they brought in on this project is a man named Levi, who is also he's a mechanical engineer, and they actually went to school together, and he hates her. She doesn't know why, so this is a like love or hate to love relationship. What bothers me about these books is not necessarily that they are bad, but if we are coming at a writing technical standpoint, these books are bad. It's that this straight white woman gets to make millions of dollars or thousands of dollars because her book sold thousands of copies for mediocrity. That's what makes me mad. Is like she represents the absolute unfairness of the publishing industry. However, I do understand that this is a no thoughts head empty romance. It's really not that deep. This author is living her best life. Really what concerned me though is the fact that she's also a professor. If I read this book and realized that's how my neuroengineering professor thinks sex works, I would walk out of class. I would be so scared of you. and I would not be facing you. So it kind of scares me that she's a professor, but nonetheless, Allie Hazelwood living her best life. I, however, was not living my best life when I read this book. I gave it a 1 star. This book, okay, so the main character's name is Levi, so we are already competing. We are already combating. And he's 6'4". You know what? I am not 6'4". I do have a 4 in my height. It is at the front. It is the first number. So I'm already at a disadvantage here, okay? Second portion is that both friends that I was reading this with were genuinely enjoying the No Thoughts Head Empty romance. That was so hard on me. I thought one of them was going to be on my side. She was not on my side. Betrayed. Betrayed. Absolutely betrayed. Also, this book is just bad. Like, from a technical standpoint, this book is not written well. Allie Hazelwood, it's very clear that Allie Hazelwood is still a beginning writer. I know that these books are born from fan fiction and, like, Star Wars fan fiction, and that is totally fine, but fan fiction is not the same. It can be, but it is not the same quality of writing as published work, because it doesn't go through an editor, like a professional editor, a lot. But also, fan fiction is, I think, a perfect way to cultivate your writing and to start sculpting who you are as a writer. It's where I got my start writing, because if you don't know where to start, taking somebody else's world, somebody else's characters, and forming them into your own ideas so you don't have to deal from the ground up is a great way to start off your writing career, and allows you to explore writing styles, techniques, and genres without worrying about characters and characteristics as well as world building. I think it's just a really good idea. And then if you want to do all that, that's where AUs come in, or OCs and stuff like that. But I think it's a really great way to start your writing career, and if you never want to get past that, that's totally fine. If you are a writer who wants to write a novel, you cannot simply copy and paste a fan fiction, because what you're doing is you are taking somebody else's characters. They're not yours. You have not built them up. You are trusting the fandom who is reading that, who knows those characters, to already know all of that information when they're going into your work. When you start a book like this, you have no prior knowledge. Your readers are picking up your world from the ground up, not somebody else's that you have built upon. And I think that's where the problem with fanfic writers becoming published like this really lies, is that their technical writing skills for characters and world building is not up to par, and they can't do it. And I feel that way with Allie Hazelwood. Her characters are copy and paste of each other. They are not built well. The gender essentialism in this book, I usually don't even care about gender essentialism. Yes, it's bothersome. Yes, the straights are at it again. But dear God, you would think that this woman has never taken an anatomy class, because there's a scene where he wraps his entire hand, this one, around her abdomen. I don't think that's, like, physically possible unless she is a Barbie doll. And it scares me. And just every time Levi does something, it's his masculine chin, or his masculine scent, or the fact that he has a sharp jawline, or the fact that he's 6'4" and she wants to climb him like a tree, or that she's so small and she's so skinny and ooh woo, I can't reach the peanut butter jar on the second shelf. And it's just so frustrating. It's just like, shut up. We know you're straight. Like, we get it. We get it. And that part was just really frustrating, because it's bad technical writing. There is no reason to put male scent. What does that mean? Do you mean pine? Do you mean musk? Smoke? What is it? What is a male scent? Sweat? Because I can tell you when I started taking tea, I got sweaty and disgusting, okay? It smells gross, if that's what you mean for masculine scent. I used to be able to go a day without deodorant. I cannot do that anymore. I am sweaty and gross, and testosterone smells bad. So, like, what is a male scent? Tell me. I would like to know. Bee and Levi are caricatures of the characters they are very clearly drawn from, which is Rey and Kylo Ren. It's just very frustrating that you can tell that this author does not have the technical skill, and yet she is selling out everywhere. And it's just very frustrating for marginalized authors who do have that technical skill, who have master's degrees in writing, or who have been writing for so long and have been published before, not selling this much because they are marginalized authors. So that's where the frustration in this book lies for me, and I'm happy that people get happiness out of this book, and that this is like a fun No Thoughts Head Empty romance for them. But for me, the writing skill wasn't there. If I have a No Thoughts Head Empty romance, of which I read a few this year and actually liked, I need the technical writing skills to be up to par, and they're just not there for me. The next one, I actually do kind of feel bad about, because I was really looking forward to this book, and not only that, I had 2 editions, and I went to her signing, and I met her, so I feel extra bad that I gave this a 2 out of 5, but that is the Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. So when I got this book, I not only paid full price, but I paid for admission to her signing, and I went with a couple of friends. It was a really fun experience. I asked her some questions. Like, she was just so nice. We talked about where she went to school, and she was a lawyer in the county that I grew up in and was a criminal lawyer. And at that time I was like, maybe I should go into criminal law. So we talked for a little bit about her career as a lawyer. And when I went to read this book, oh my god, the fact that she was a lawyer made so much sense, because this book is so goddamn pedantic. I feel so bad because I was also trying to buddy read this with a friend, and my friend DNF'd. My drive to finish this after my friend DNF'd was like down the drain. But at the time I was doing like a dark academia video, and this book made me cancel it because I hated it so much. So if you haven't seen this book because you live under a rock, this book is about 6 students who are chosen from all over the world to become part of the Alexandrian Society. And so the basis of that is that the Alexandrian library didn't really burn down, but it's been preserved and hidden away from regular society by magic folk. And there are like magic people are known, magic is known, it solved a lot of world problems, caused a lot of world problems, but it's like this thing that the general public knows of. But the Alexandrian Society takes 6 of these magic college students and tells them to protect the library, and then they also get access to that library and to do their own experiments and stuff. 6 people who all have these magic powers sworn into the Alexandrian Society. However, they are told that at the end of the year there will only be 5. And it's definitely so interesting. Like, it's such an interesting concept, but it loses itself in the fact that this book has no plot. I'm talking none until the last like 30 pages. This is vibes only for 300 pages. Her writing is just, it's definitely purple prose, but it is so overcomplicated because she tries to make herself sound smart because she's writing these 2 incredibly smart characters. So there's all of these convoluted ideas and theories and everything like that, that once you actually really look into them, don't really make that much sense and aren't as complicated, but they're overwritten to make them seem complicated because we have 2 incredibly smart characters. I think a good parallel to how this book is written is how Spencer Reid is written in Criminal Minds. Hear me out. Once you actually slow down what Spencer is saying in a lot of scenes and make sense of the bigger words he is using, it is just the same thing as like 2 + 2 = 4, an incredibly complicated vocabulary. What he's saying can sometimes be basic knowledge just repackaged as academia. That's what this entire book is, BTW. There's absolutely no plots, just vibes. And I really disliked it because it was overwritten so much and because nothing is moving. There's nothing happening, and it's increasingly frustrating as the year progresses. And not only that, we're not really getting any character development either. There's some fun side plots or some fun side stories, but the characters pretty much stay stagnant, and they don't have an end goal. So we know that there is only 5, but they don't know how. They know that they have to protect the library, but there's really only 2 break-ins before they're done protecting the library. And then they don't have a goal to work on the library. They're doing their own thing. So there's no active goal for them to start moving forward to, which makes this book incredibly dull and stands still at its core. The fact that this book is just 300 pages of absolute nothing, and then the last like 30 pages are all of the plot sucked into 2 chapters with 1 character is infinitely frustrating. And even though this ends on a cliffhanger, I will not be reading the sequel. No, this was so boring. Those are the only ones I had physically. There are a bunch of other books I logged but do not have physically. Some of them I've talked about in previous videos, so I'm not going to talk as much about them here, but let's get started. I would say that Atlas 6 and Love on the Brain were definitely like my most disliked books this year, other than Hide by Kirsten White, which I did a whole video on. So the way that I log my books is I write them in order of when I finish them. So these are all in order of when I finish the physical books, and there's 25 on each page, so I'm literally just going to go in order, and if I haven't talked about it yet, I'll go a little bit more in depth, but if I have, I will send you to the video of them that I have. So the first one obviously is Hide by Kirsten White. This was one of the first books I read this year. 1 star, hated it so much. I will leave the link to the video I made on it somewhere on the screen. The next one I talked about in a reading vlog, but I didn't really talk about it that much, and that is We Need to Do Something by Max Bluth III. This is another recommendation that I got from Gabby, and I'm starting to think that maybe our reading and horror does not mix because I hated this book. This is kind of a surrealist horror-ish where this family is living, I want to say in Ohio, could also be Indiana, Midwest, and a tornado is coming. And they have to stay in their bathroom, and the tornado passes, and they realize that a tree has fallen into their house and is blocking the door, and they cannot get out. So now they're trapped in this bathroom for, I think it's like 10 days, and they have to try and survive. And it's a dysfunctional family. Like, the parents are on the brink of divorce. The daughter is a goth Satanist, and the brother is a piece of shit, and he's like 7. I read this over audio in one day, and this book, I hated it. I know I'm saying that about a lot of books this year, but I genuinely hated this book because there is nothing good about it. Like, the whole dysfunctional family was fine, but the brother ruined this entire book for me. He was so fucking annoying, and he was 7. This is not how 7-year-olds act. Like, he was annoying the entire time and so unserious the entire time when they're literally dying in this bathroom because they cannot get out. And he's like, obviously they're in the bathroom, so they have access to like a toilet and everything, but the whole time he's like, haha, I'm pooping, like I'm farting, and it's like, shut up. I understand you're a 7-year-old boy, but 7-year-olds can get scared and will be serious in a situation like this. And so the fact that he was just so annoying the whole time ruined the entire book for me. Honestly, there's no point to this book. It ends up being the end of the world, and the daughter caused it by summoning Satan, and it just makes no sense, and I just didn't like it. The next one genuinely makes me so sad because Sadie is one of my favorite books of all time. And no, I'm scared that that's going to be a one-hit wonder from this author. And the next book I read was I'm the Girl by Courtney Summers. I originally got this as an ARC and rated it 2 stars, so I never reviewed it publicly on my channel because I felt so bad about it. Because this is one of my most anticipated books of the year. When I found out this was coming out, I think it was in like March, I was dancing in my seat because Sadie is one of my favorite books ever. I absolutely love that book. I reread it like once a year, and I'm the Girl was supposed to be the spiritual successor to Sadie, and it just was not good. The message was nothing like that of Sadie, and I don't know if spiritual successor was Courtney's idea or it was the publisher's idea. So if it was the publishers capitalizing on Sadie and marketing like that, I totally understand why it doesn't connect with Sadie. But if Courtney Summers wrote it to actually be a spiritual successor and have the same tone as Sadie, it flopped. It did not have the same tone. It did not have the same message or the same empowerment that Sadie had. One of the biggest things about Sadie that I loved was Sadie's anger. She was feral. She was like full of rage and going after her sister. And I guess I could see this as like Maddie's point of view if Maddie were like a different person in another book. Definitely how naive she was, which may be the point to all of this. But if we're talking about Sadie and like the message of that book and the feeling of that book, none of it was transferred over to I'm the Girl. So our main character is a 15-year-old girl named Georgia, and we start off the book with her understanding how beautiful she is. She's a conventionally attractive white woman, and she knows how pretty she is. She's got these big lips, soft curves. She's just coming into herself. She's like self-identifyingly has big boobs, and she just knows her worth and beauty, and she thinks that's all she is her worth and beauty. And we find out at the beginning of the book that she's discovered a body of a 13-year-old girl named Ashley who has been assaulted and then dumped on the side of the road. She sees, I think, the body getting dumped and obviously reports it to the police, but also the person who's dumping the body sees that she sees it and tries to run her over. And also at the beginning of the book, we know that she has nude photos of herself because she was caught in a modeling scam where these guys basically were taking photos of minors naked and probably selling them. Very illegal. And so then we're also trying to find out what's happening there, what happened with Ashley, and what this big resort, because this is like a resort town just outside of this big country club basically, and Georgia wants to work there and be one of the Elysium girls. That's what it's called. I think it's called Elysium. And she wants to work there because her mother worked there and was fired for some reason that Georgia's not super clear about. And then her mother also just died, so her brother's taking care of her. There's like a lot going on. And she's trying to find Ashley's killer. She wants to be an Elysium girl because she knows that they make money and that she's pretty enough to do it despite the fact that she's a minor. And she's also getting closer with Ashley's sister as she tries to solve Ashley's murder, and also who is trying to kill her because she might have seen something. And also the road where Ashley was found is the road that leads to and from Elysium. So they know it has something to do with the club. And basically from the beginning of the book, you know where this is going. One thing I really liked about Sadie is the dual POV like timelines of Sadie going missing, but also Sadie trying to find the person who killed her sister, and they're knocking on the same doors and getting different answers. And that's something that I really appreciated about the book, because I could so easily be repetitive, but Sadie was clever enough to not have it be repetitive. However, this book is just stupid. And I say that in a frustrating way, because I understand this is fiction, but it is based on real life influences. And when you are a girl, you are not allowed to be this dumb. And it's just the sad, sad truth of America. Georgia is stupid. She is supremely stupid. And she wants to go and be an Elysium girl, even though she knows basically it's a bunch of high-powered adults and a lot of very wealthy adults taking advantage of the girls who work at the spa or at the resort or whatever. And while they are also servers, they're basically also sex workers against their will, because they need the money, and they go to these parties where they get drugged up and it hurts them. And it's just the same plotline that we know happens in real life, and yet it's handled in such a dumb way. Like, we definitely know places like this exist because they've been busted before, and unfortunately that's how Ashley does die. It's not a plot twist, it's not a mystery, and the mystery gets shoved to the wayside because we're dealing with our stupid idiot main character Georgia. And Georgia, who is refusing to draw any connections. And one thing I really disliked about this book is that Cleo, who is Georgia's mentor while she gets the job at Elysium. So she gets a job at Elysium and she's kind of like this clerk. And Cleo, who is the wife of the owner of Elysium, I think it's called Elysium, I'm so sorry if it's not, is mentoring her because she sees something in Georgia. And Cleo, as a young girl, was also groomed into this position, and groomed in the worst way possible, right? Her husband is like 2 decades older than her. She was groomed as a young girl, and now she's grooming Georgia and basically telling Georgia, you're never going to be anything but your look, so you have to start getting on it. You have to let these men assault you. Like, and Georgia's not attracted to men. She never says it, but she is a lesbian. And the word is never said, but like, she only likes girls because she's figuring out her sexuality. And it's just so frustrating that she does not grow until the last page. I'm not even kidding. The last sentence is when she starts to grow and realize that that's not the life that she wants. And it's so annoying. I understand Georgia is 15, but this book did not read like a 15-year-old girl. She reads like somebody who's just coming out of high school. And at 15, you are very vulnerable to manipulation, but Georgia is so insecure, even though she insists that she's not, that she falls for any type of manipulation there is. And it's just like, you just want to shake her. And maybe that's the point of the book, that this girl is so vulnerable and so moldable that you want to take her off the page, but also you want to yell at her because she's making stupid decisions. The thing about Sadie that I loved was the palpable rage. That Sadie was calculated, she was cold, and she knew what she wanted. Georgia is almost the exact opposite. She's floundering, she is too vulnerable and is unable to grow until the very last page. So we see her make all of these stupid, dumb decisions and don't let her grow from them until the last sentence of the last page. And that's the most frustrating thing. Like, if she had realized halfway through the book that she was being dumb and then stop being dumb, and we get to see her grow or even understand how she was manipulated, that would have been a better book than her waiting until the last page to realize that all of the decisions were wrong. George is just like such a lost, sad girl, and unfortunately we do not get to see her grow anywhere from there other than her finding herself just a little bit before the book ends. And also the message of this book was not my favorite because it's one that's so well known. It's kind of the same message in Sadie, but at least Sadie centralized it. This message is literally wealthy, powerful men are bad and they do bad things. And like, yeah, I know that also. I think everybody in the world possibly knows that. So this being the only message of the book was very frustrating, considering Sadie had centralized that message onto 2 characters and onto a whole network of people that we could really hate and give a name to, while this was just rich people evil, which, yes, we know that already. I wish it had centralized that message just a little bit more, refined it just a little bit more to fit the needs of the book. So this book was like a 2-star for me, which was so sad because Sadie is one of my favorite books of all time, and I'm really hoping that Courtney Summers is not like a one-hit wonder for me and that I enjoy the other books of hers I have on my TBR. The next 2 I talked about in my dark romance video, so I'm not going to spend too much time on them, but that is Corrupt and Haunting Adeline. Corrupt by Penelope Douglas, Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. I hated these books. They were badly written. They were stupid. I gave both of these books, I think I gave Corrupt 1 star and Haunting Adeline 2 stars, and I reviewed them in a dark romance video that I did a couple of months ago, and I will put it on the screen here so you can go watch it. So one of the last books I have to talk about today, I feel like was not seen a lot on BookTok or BookTube this year, even though the concept sounded so good to me, and that is Patricia Wants to Cuddle by Samantha Allen. And I actually didn't know this book was by a trans author until I finished it, and so now I feel a little bit worse about giving it 2 stars because it's written by a trans woman. So important in publishing to publish trans women's stories. Unfortunately, this one was not good. Patricia Wants to Cuddle is about a woman who gets invited to go on this like dating show, and it's like The Bachelor basically, and she doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life, so she's like, okay, and I think she's 27, and she's the only Black contestant on the show, and it's getting to like the final stages, and there's I think 4 women left, and she knows that she's only there because she is the only Black woman on the show, and so she's getting a little frustrated. She doesn't even like the guy. She thinks that she might be a lesbian, but she doesn't know, and she thinks that she might like one of the girls instead. And so they get to this remote island to finish filming, and they realize that they are not alone. There is a creature out there, and interspersed throughout the book we also get letters and some multimedia stuff. So we know that on this island, I think like 20 years ago, a woman went to go check out why people kept going missing on this island, and she herself went missing. And also we're getting these love letters between 2 women, I believe in the 70s, who are going back and forth about how they want to get out of where they live to go live together, and that they'll wait for each other essentially. And this book is really short. It was only like 5 hours on audio, and I think it's only like 3 or maybe even under that, 300 or so, maybe under pages. So it's really short, and it's this like comedy type, surrealist type horror, and a kind of retelling of King Kong. So Patricia is King Kong in this sense. She's like this monster who lives on this island, and things go quickly, like things start moving quickly, but I just didn't really see the whole point of this book. I mean, it was like, it wasn't even really that scary. I also didn't really see the point of Patricia. Like, Patricia has caretakers, so everybody who comes on the island who basically fucks with her island, Patricia's like, I'm going to eat you. She's like the 7-foot tall monster lady, and she ends up kidnapping one of the contestants and like killing the contestant, and she just wants some nice companions. But people always treat her as a monster, but she just wants to cuddle. So I definitely see the comparisons and the literary motifs in this book, but I had some problems with the actual writing. Really, the thing about this book is that there is no central plot. There is like the Bachelor type show, which I did not expect going into it because that was not mentioned anywhere in the synopsis that I was reading. So that was really surprising to me. Honestly, it didn't really add much to the story. They could have been there for any other reason, and it would have read the same because there's nothing really like exciting or important about it. Like, the writing was very fast paced. It was very good, but as the book went on, I think it just kind of lost itself a little bit, so it started to go a little more downhill. And this book has one of my biggest pet peeves, which is, so the main character is Black, obviously totally fine. The author is white, and one of my biggest pet peeves is white authors using their Black main characters to make white people jokes. Yeah, something about that is off to me. Like, I don't like that, so it was just a bit weird, in my opinion. I don't know, there's just something that gives me the ick about that. I can't put it into words, just gives me the ick. So I didn't like that, and I ended up giving this book a 2 stars because I just really didn't understand the point of it. So the last book I have to talk about is not necessarily like a worst book of all time. It was just kind of a disappointment to me because I was so hyped for it and really wanted to read it after loving Grown, and that is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is straight up a Carrie retelling. Like, it is actually just literally a Carrie retelling, and her name is Kerry Washington. That cannot be right. Her name cannot be Kerry Washington. So our main character is mixed. She's half Black, half white. Her Black mother died during childbirth, and her white father is taking care of her. This is an important part of the story, which is why I'm telling you like who's who. And her father is actually like supremely racist, and the town is also supremely racist. It's a small southern town with a mainly white population, and so Carrie has been passing as white all these years. And the biggest thing is that she straightens her hair every morning, and she can't get it wet because if it gets wet, it'll frizz. People will know that she is not white. And the book starts off with her running in gym, and instead of getting her period, it rains and it gets her hair wet and her hair starts to frizz, and now everybody at the school knows that she is Black. And the story progresses from there. The biggest draw of the story that it says on the flap is that this school does not have an integrated prom. And when I was reading this book is set in 2014. Like, it's not set in the 60s, 70s, 80s. It is set in 2014. So a video of people bullying Carrie for being Black and essentially having Black textured hair goes viral, and to save face, the school's like, we're gonna have an integrated prom. And I was like, how are we at 2014 and you do not have an integrated prom? I read the book and it does explain it in the book. It's very intentional that these two proms are segregated, but it's technically not hosted by the school, and it is phrased in a way where it's technically not segregation, it's a money issue, but it's very intentional that these two proms are segregated due to the town's history and still like recent population and the fact that it's still so conservative. So the way that prom works in this town is that the rich kids who in this town, due to a lot of different issues that are present in the United States, almost all of the rich kids are the white kids, and they host their own prom at a country club, and your family has to be like members of the country club, but the country club is selective about who they take in, and then you also have to pay for a ticket. So it's segregating that way, like, because obviously all the white kids belong to this country club, and even though legally it's not segregation, obviously it's very intentional who belongs to that club and who doesn't. And then the other kids in town, who are namely like the Black and brown kids, will put on their own prom across town in this like warehouse that they do every year. And then this gets leaked that it's not an integrated prom. And so to save face, the school's like, what if we did an integrated prom? And so that's kind of the plot of the story. And here's where I don't understand, because the main mean girl, like the Sue character, is dating a Black man. But I'm like, were y'all not about to go to prom together? There's a white girl and Black boy who are dating, have been together for years. And were they not about to go to prom together? That's why I was so confused by that choice, because was this going to be like brought up, the fact that they were not going to prom together even though they're dating? Yeah, but like it's obviously very uncomfortable to read because there's so many just straight up aggressions, but also so many micro aggressions in this book, and Carrie's like justification is so valid for going crazy. I read this book with Mayana and we both kind of agree that this book was interesting, but is pretty much a play-by-play of what happened in the 2013 Carrie remake, which I watched like directly after reading the book just to compare, and yeah, they're like almost exactly the same. I thought it was going to be a little bit more psychological because Tiffany D. Jackson is at the helm, and Grown is like such a psychological horror, to be completely honest, that I thought she was going to go a little bit deeper into it, but it stayed pretty surface level, pretty true to the Stephen King novel. But also, they make a reference to Stephen King in the book. Carrie is like starting out on herself and like figuring out her power, and she mentioned something, or somebody mentioned something, and one of the characters like, this isn't a Stephen King novel, that doesn't happen. I'm like, so you're admitting that Carrie like exists in this universe, and yet you're retelling Carrie. And I was just like, I think, what? And I wish that it was different. I wish that it was based on Carrie, but a little bit different. But it's not. It's just Carrie. I do recommend the audiobook for this one. It's full cast, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, but other than that, I was disappointed by this book, unfortunately. That is pretty much it for the worst reads this year. Most disappointing. Also, worst reads I read. I would say number one worst book, obviously Hyde. So hoping that this year is off to a better start. And I'm actually reading books right now that I'm really enjoying. So far, January is off to a good start. And I'm really excited to talk about my plans for 2023. I know it's coming a month late because I was sick for so long. But plans are coming soon for 2023 and what I want this channel to be, plus some reads I'm excited about for 2023. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. If you want to see more from me, click that subscribe button. Any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and put them down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!